Hello and welcome back to the Passion Stories podcast. I'm your host, Emma Cole, and my word, have I got a lineup for you. Yes, I know, I really do. So the New York Marathon is coming up on Sunday, the 2nd of November, and thousands of runners will be lining up to take part in this iconic marathon. Iconic. I know, right? So not just because it takes place in New York City, but because it is the largest marathon in the world. How cool! Even more intriguing, I just found out, is that the New York Marathon actually began in 1970 with a $1 fee and only 127 entrants. Mental. I mean, how times have changed. Not just with entry fees, but the amount of people lining up to take part in that challenge. And the athletes looking to run their best race and top the podium. And one of those very people is our guest for this episode. And I'm so excited to be joined by pro trail runner Zach Friedley, who is going to be on the start line of the New York Marathon. Cool. Even cooler is that Zach is part of the On Running team. He is also an above-the-knee amputee, and he is the founder of Born to Adapt, which is an organisation which creates events for disabled people across the globe and advocates for more adaptive opportunities in the biggest trail races of the world. And he's going to tell us all about it. And I mean, Zach is going to go into it, but essentially there are a lot of running events, but not all of these running events have categories specifically for adaptive athletes. And Zach is also on a mission to change that. So let's welcome to the podcast, Zach Friedley. Zach, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Super excited to get into it.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'm glad to be here.
And so, Zach, you are a pro trail runner. Why?
Well, I love running. I love being in the mountains and doing really hard things, I guess. I mean, sometimes in a race, I have a moment of, why am I doing this? But, usually after the finish and, the community engagement, that's why.
And I mean, you said you love the mountains. You're from Northern California, or you live in Northern California. What kind of produced this love of the mountains?
Well, it started when I was a kid, actually. So I grew up in the Midwest. There's a place called Missouri. It's like right in the middle. Not any mountains nearby. And I just remember as a kid, we went on a family vacation. I must have been like 7, maybe even younger. We were driving to Colorado, where the Rocky Mountains are, and we're driving down the highway. And the first time I ever saw a mountain in my life, I remember like laying in the back of the car. My mom used to make me like this bed, and I would sleep while they drive. And I like woke up, and then boom, there was a mountain. And I was just like, holy smokes. And then we get into the mountains, and as a kid missing my leg, it was never like, hey, go on this trail. Let's go on this like 10-mile hike. I only looked at them from cars and like walkways that are like super accessible. So I never really imagined myself in the mountains. And then later in life, I had a huge transformation. And the next thing you know, I'm running up the biggest mountains in the world. So it started young, and it took a long time.
I mean, that's amazing. And you mentioned that you're missing your leg because you're an adaptive pro trail runner, if that's the correct terminology. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I was born missing my leg and have had prosthetics my whole life, and got a blade when I was in my 20s and started running, and then made it professionally in my mid-30s.
That's so cool. And I'd love to understand a bit more about prosthetics and like the choice you get. Like growing up, have you seen, I guess, the industry becoming more kind of running friendly? How's it been for you?
Yeah, so I mean, the technology has surely advanced since I was a kid. But what seems to not be advancing is like the access to these things for everybody. So it's not necessarily like a running shoe where you just hop in a running store and you choose from, 20 different shoes. A prosthetic costs thousands of dollars, and there's insurances involved, and some insurances won't cover it. Maybe you only get one every 2 years. Maybe you don't get it at all because you don't have insurance. So it's very tricky, at least in the US, for people to acquire these things. And I travel the world a lot, and I've been to places like in New Zealand where it's a different story. So each country has different ways that they get these things in people's hands. And where I'm from in the US, you would think it would be like pretty buttoned up, but it's not. But I got friends that have started a movement where they're trying to change legislation in the state level. So we change this for the future. And I shouldn't say trying, they actually are doing this. And it's pretty cool.
That's amazing. What's the name of their group or their organization?
So Everybody Can Move. And yeah, they basically go to like state by state, like Oregon or California or Washington, and they go to like the state Senate and petition for these things to change. And these states have changed some of the laws that require insurance to cover these things. Because, I mean, a running blade is health related. I mean, if you're not moving, you probably could get some disease, like movement is huge. So it should be just a part of life.
Yeah. And so is the blade the ultimate running prosthetic? That's kind of what everyone uses.
For now. Yeah. I mean, I have like deep sci-fi dreams of like nanotech stuff, like a Tony Stark suit, but we're not there yet. But so the blade is definitely the cutting edge right now.
And do you remember your first running prosthetic? What it was like wearing it?
Yeah, it's a memory that is very clear. So I was 21. I think I was 21. It was 2007, and it was in the winter. And I got invited to this prosthetics place that was like 5 hours from my house. So I had to get a hotel, and my dad came with me, and we went down there. And we were actually there to sample some like walking prosthetics, because the one I had was like really complex, and the person in our community didn't know how to set it up. So the main office was like, we'll come down here, we'll hook it all up, it'll be perfect. So I went down there, we spent the day hooking up the walking thing. And while I was there, the guy was like, hey, you want to try a blade? And I was like, yeah. Like at that time, I don't even know how you got blades, to be honest. Like it wasn't as easy, or I shouldn't say easy. It's easier now, but back then it was like, how do you even do this? So I hooked it up, and the guy was like, hey, it's going to take you some time to get used to this. So don't get frustrated. It takes weeks and weeks and weeks. And it took me like 5 minutes. And I was running up and down this hallway, and it was like my body never felt that before. I mean, I was flying. And that's what kind of started my quote unquote running journey officially.
I mean, what was the reaction of the people around you?
Well, they hyped me up pretty big. They were like, oh, in 6 months, the 2008 Beijing Paralympics are happening. You're going to be on that team. Like, whoa, like all this stuff. And none of that stuff ever happened, but I tried. I just didn't have all the right pieces in my life then, and it wasn't meant to be. I mean, thankfully, if I would have made it and been on a team, I would have never been the guy here, like on a pro trail team, have a nonprofit changing the paradigm of disabled sports. So things happen for a reason, and I guess that was one of them.
Definitely. And about the technique that you use, why did people say it takes you so long to get used to a prosthetic?
Yeah, so I mean, there's different ways into this. So I was born this way, right? So I have always had this, and I've never really had to adjust anything per se. Whereas maybe somebody has an accident and they lose their leg, so they have to adjust. So we could look the same on the outside, but we have different ways in, And I think for me, it felt natural, and maybe I like imagined what it would be like to run, and it just kind of clicked. Where I've seen people put blades on, and it takes them many weeks or months, because you have to trust it. You kind of got to be a bit crazy to run with the blade sometimes, because you're depending on this thing that could at any moment just like pop out from underneath you and boom. And, and that's happened. I mean, it's happened to me. So you have to just trust the equipment. And I think that's a really hard thing to do. And yeah, I've just had a lot of practice at it.
When you say the blade pops out, you're then just left, on what happens?
Yeah. So I am missing my leg above the knee. So I have a mechanical knee, and it is hydraulic, and it's all about angles. And at a certain angle, that knee will fire, And so the angle's changed by me, actually. So like me and my prosthetist will set the angle at however we want. So when I'm running on a trail, I don't want it to pop. I want it to be very conservative. Whereas like when I'm on a road, you want that thing to fire pretty hard. So if you don't set it up right, and let's say you're on a mountain trail, and this has actually happened to me in a race where I'm like running and I'm like, man, we got this thing all wrong. And the knee just isn't there. Like you go to put your weight down and it just isn't there. It's like ready to like move. And so if you're running and you depend on that thing and it ain't there, boom. I mean, you're like eating it. You're headed down to the ground.
And that happened to you during a race?
Actually, this year, so what's really tricky with me right now too is I have one mechanical knee. I need like 3 of these things at the same time, but they're super expensive and really hard to get. But I have one, and we go back and forth between road running because I'm training for like the New York City Marathon, the Houston Marathon. I'm trying to be really fast. And then I'm also doing crazy steep mountain stuff. So we'll have it turned conservative and then we'll have it turned really aggressive. Well, in June, I left my prosthetist and I guess we had it turned aggressive and I didn't, and you can't really tell while you're walking around, but I get out on the course and I'm running and the thing is like literally buckling every step I take. And I'm running around this crazy mountain and like every thought in my head, I was like, man, oh my God, I have to go 14 miles like this. And I think that the leg buckled out from underneath me like 100 times. I didn't fall once, but it was still frustrating because I couldn't put my weight in it and like really rip. I had to like kind of run conservatively.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds crazy. And because you mentioned before that because you're a pro trail runner and you're sponsored by On, when did you get this sponsorship and how kind of has that sponsorship helped you and propelled you to where you are now?
Yeah, so I got connected with On in like the spring of 2022. I had a call with a guy named David Kilgore. He's our athlete manager, super cool dude. And I basically just pitched him my dream. And that was to be a pro trail runner and run around the world and change the paradigm for para athletes in the sport. And he was like, yo, let's go for it. So I signed my first contract with them and then signed a 5-year extension in 2023. So I'll be on the team for a couple more years now. And yeah, it's elevated, I think, trail running in our community. I get to run in the biggest races in the world. I get to speak on like amazing panels and just really bring it into like the consciousness of people of like, these athletes are here. We're doing these things. We need infrastructure. We need to be part of the discussion. And On has given me the resources to pursue that and be that person and bring more people in. There's a lot of people now running that are para athletes in the sport. This year at UTMB, we got a number that 40 athletes with disabilities signed up for the week in Chamonix, which is up huge because in 2022, we think there might have only been 1 or 2, and I was one of them.
Wow.
Yeah. So I think it's just awareness and visibility, and you can't be what you can't see. So if you don't see somebody doing something, that looks like you, how the heck are you going to dream it, And On has really given me a path, and I hope we just keep growing it.
I love it. And actually, that's how I came across you, was from some UTMB content through your organization, Born to Adapt.
Yeah.
Why did you start Born to Adapt, and what is its purpose?
Yeah, so I started it as a need because, I was in the trail running scene and I've been to races and I hadn't seen people with blades or wheelchairs or anybody with a disability out there. And I was kind of complaining about it, honestly, on a podcast. And this guy who was a race director at the time was like, hey, like, why don't you create the event? Why don't you do this stuff? And I had a nonprofit then, and I wasn't really doing much with it. I had like big ambitions when I formed it to help the disabled community internationally, but really hadn't got like a path yet. And this basically opened up that path, and that's when Born to Adapt was created out of it. And we had our first race in 2022. We had people with disabilities there, and then since then, it's just evolved into going all over the world. We have events in New Zealand. We partner with UTMB World Series. We're doing stuff in North America. Race directors reach out all the time. Like, panels reach out and be like, hey, like, how can we include this community? So we have just a lot of stuff we're working with. It just keeps on growing year after year. And it started out with me, and now I've got, people that are involved day to day that help me, and it's not just me anymore.
How did it make you feel being at UTMB surrounded by 40 other para athletes, knowing that, you've been instrumental in that change and getting more people on the start line?
Yeah, it was super cool this year. I think this is the most special year I've had there. I've been there 4 years now and raced 3 of them. And this year we brought an Ecuadorian, my friend Yahir, and my friend Danny Arovich. We were like basically that was our group. And Danny ran the ETC with me, and Yahir did OCC, which is supposed to be a 57K, but route changes made it a 61K. So that was really special to see them and be there. It was the first time I've been with a group of athletes that are also disabled, so it was pretty cool. And Yahir's story was like one that you can't even write. He almost didn't get into the country. We were working on his visa for months and months and months and got rejected and almost lost all hope. I reached out to the internet and made a plea of like, hey, if anybody has any connections in the embassies, please help us. And somebody at UTMB shared that message and then found somebody in the French embassy in Quito. And at the last minute, I'm talking like 12 hours before his flight took off, he got his visa and he could come. So it was the most frustrating summer, but also the coolest summer because, we made a film about this. Yahir's been training. This has been like 3 years in the making. And he's 20 years old. And he's like, why can't I come? I don't understand. Like, how come? And I'm like, dude, I don't know what to tell you. Like it's not fair because I can just hop on a flight from the US and go anywhere I want in the world. And you have to ask for permission. And some person that doesn't know you has to make the call. But we leveraged our privilege and got him there. And it was one of the coolest things to see.
That is an absolutely amazing story. I had goosebumps while you were telling it. I mean, just incredible. And when he finished the OCC, what was that like?
Whew, yeah. So, you start at like 8 a.m. and it was rainy like all day. They, even at night, they ran through crazy lightning and thunderstorms. One of my teammates, Genevieve Harrison, was his guide runner. And she's, a queen of 100 milers. She's won like Leadville 100. She's legit. And I'm so thankful that she, agreed to be a part of this. And she guided him through the mountains all day and making sure, because he'd never gone further than 30K. And, like eating and making sure his prosthetic was taken care of and all these other things. So you're like managing all these things as you're running. And she helped him go from Switzerland all the way to Chamonix. And I saw him at many different checkpoints, and I could see this kid like he was like going through a transformation where at the beginning he was like pretty quiet, maybe timid, maybe even a little scared at the start line, which is pretty normal. And then by the end, he was like just ready. Like, how much further did we go? I'm getting there. I'm doing this. And he finished, and yeah, it was cool. It was a moment that I'll never forget.
Oh, it's just utterly beautiful. And, when you look kind of now, just seeing what you've accomplished so far with Born to Adapt, what are kind of the other barriers? What are the things that you really want to improve?
I really want to improve access to like me, like what we're doing it on right now. I want to be able to replicate that in the industry and not just have like solo people, like a handful of people. I wish we could somehow formulate brands, big brands, to have athletes just like me. And there's, people all over Chamonix that are sponsored trail runners or wherever they are. Maybe they're at World Championships right now in India. That's where the para track and field is happening. Like you got teams out there like Adidas and the OAC with On. I want to really see these athletes embraced by these brands and start paying these people what they're worth. And let's see the sport grow. That's like my big dream.
Love it. And what do you think why aren't brands getting behind para athletes?
I don't think they understand what's going on. And also, the people making these decisions probably aren't from that community. So how could they understand? So you got to get people inside that know what's going on to make these decisions. And I mean, why do we put emphasis on like who's winning the Boston Marathon? And why do we pay them $150,000? Like, start to unpack that. Like, is it marketing? Like, who decided it? And why can't we be invited and be a part of that as well? So these are the questions, and I don't have all the answers, but I think it'd be cool to get into a room full of people that make these decisions and have these conversations and figure out a new way forward and a new paradigm and have everyone there.
Definitely. Because now I'm wondering how many para athletes will be at the New York Marathon or the Boston Marathon?
Probably like 500-ish. I mean, that's huge.
Out of how many?
Well, I mean, there's 65,000 people running. Yeah, it's huge. But yeah, I mean, so I raced in New York last year, and it changed my perception of what's possible because of how many athletes were there with disabilities. The way the New York City Marathon treats these athletes is something like crazy, like red carpet rollout. Like, everything was thought through. I mean, they've been doing it for a long time, so they've had a lot of practice. But you can tell that somebody made it an intent to make this race, the New York City Marathon, one of the most accessible races for these athletes. Everything was thought about, from transportation to the start line to your own little thing to get your wheelchairs situated, your prosthetics situated before the start goes off. And then when you finish, most people have to walk 2 miles through Central Park after you just ran a marathon. But people with disabilities have a little chute that's like right off the thing. And I actually just walked like 100 meters and hopped in a carriage with my friend that ran with me, David Kilgore. And we rode around New York City in this carriage, jamming to music to the hotel instead of walking 2 miles through. So they have like all these little things that somebody has thought about, and made these things so these athletes have an experience. And it made me, for the first time, be like, whoa, this race wants me here. And I didn't know I was missing that until I actually experienced it. So then now in the trail running world, when I'm speaking, I'm like, this is the new standard. This is how it has to be. If trail running's the most inclusive sport in the world, which they claim, let's prove it. Like, let's make it that way. Don't just slap a label on it and say you're the most inclusive. Like, you've got some competition, and let's get excited to make it that way.
And when you're on these panels and you're talking to people about like what needs to be done and all the options and the solutions, essentially, are people receptive? Do they go away and actually do the actions, or do they listen?
I feel like there are people that want to make it happen, but a lot of times I do feel a little frustrated after a panel because I'm like, yo, what is going to happen? Is anything going to move from this? But I think as I continue on panels, I become not afraid to have a call for action and have some accountability, and just kind of stand in it and be like, hey, if this is what we want and this is where we need to go, how are we going to get there? Who's going to make the decisions? What do you need from me and my community? How can we show up to push this forward and not just be like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. Thanks, Zach. I'm like, let's make it happen. I don't need to be applauded for a good idea. Like, let's actually lay some groundwork and make some changes. So I think you just kind of got to be firm, but kind. And that's my approach.
And if there was one thing in the trail running world that you could change, one thing, change or implement, what would it be?
Podium opportunities for para-athletes overnight. We would just go to UTMB and we'd be on the podium getting same awards as everybody else.
So there's currently not that?
No.
Why? Do you know?
Good question, right? I mean, I don't know. We're having discussions about it. And
That's crazy.
Anytime you see me, they know that's what we're talking about. But yeah, I think it's a lot of hesitation because they don't want to do it wrong. And, how many disabilities are out there? Do we have to like separate? And I'm like, yo, let's just I mean, obviously I would be impacted by this, but if I'm racing my friend who's got one arm, she's going to be faster than me. My friend Danny actually has a hammer and way faster than me. But if we just started out and had an adaptive or para division, maybe it's open, and we started to like show these people on top of podiums, then more people would come, and then we could start to do the separation. But I think they don't know what to do, so they don't do anything, which is like the worst move. Like, oh, we don't have the right answer right now, so we're not going to do anything. And that's like the worst answer. So I don't think you have to have all the pieces figured out. Let's just start throwing some things out there and see what works. And I've told people, don't be afraid to make mistakes. Things happen, and if you're afraid to make a mistake and you're not going to put that foot forward, that's actually the mistake.
I completely agree. And yeah, like not doing something is worse than doing something that potentially might be wrong, but you can still improve on it. That actually blows my mind.
Yeah, but trail running, I mean, is kind of newish. Like the Boston Marathon's been around for 100 years. The New York City Marathon's been doing athletes with disabilities since like the 70s or the 80s. Trail running got here like yesterday. I mean, it's been around, but it's like hasn't been like mainstream. So there's not even a governing body of trail running. So like but that's what's cool is we can be the people to change how it is going forward. So there's no like red tape to go through or like committees. It's like, let's just do the thing and like watch it grow.
I feel like, this feels like such an opportunity.
Totally. That's my pitch. Every time I'm on a stage, I'm like, how cool is it that we get to be the ones with this opportunity? Everybody in the room, wherever you are, like whether you work at a brand or you're a race director or who knows.
All I can think now is get Zach on a panel. Like, let's get him on a panel everywhere, anywhere.
I'm on a lot of panels. I do a lot of talking. Me and my friend Danny, she's the co-director of Born to Adapt with me. She's a 2-time Paralympian, winter and summer trail runner. She raced ETC, which is the one that we did in UTMB, and she came in 29th female, second American.
So
I think her time was like 2:11, and just my time was like 4 hours 19, and I was running as hard as I could. But yeah, her and I, together share panels a lot and have a lot of discussions around this. We actually just started our own podcast on Riverside.
Give a shout out.
Yeah, a few days ago, and we're going to cover para sports and like all the gaps and different things that are going on globally in the sports. And maybe we'll have like stakeholders in that community come on, and maybe brands that are like kind of getting on board, and to start these discussions and get it out on social media. And because I think people just don't know, and I think with content and with our platforms, we can educate and start conversations, and you never know who it's going to come across.
Completely. And what is the name of this podcast?
That's hilarious that you ask. We don't have a name. So in our first episode, we have a couple different names, like the Endurance Gap and a couple others, and we like list them out, and we're going to have our audience members vote on what name we should go with.
That is so fun. Okay, when is the first episode? Where can listeners vote? Where can listeners find your podcast?
Yeah, so I think how we're going to do it is, so I'm going to edit it. It's going to be, on Spotify eventually, but we're going to put the reels out first on our Instagrams. Like, how you and I are talking now, we'll put the reel out so people can vote on it, and then we'll put the name, and then we'll upload it to Spotify and YouTube. And I think we're going to do like 2 or 3 episodes a month and just get into para sports, because I don't think anything like it really exists where two people that are in this community are just having a conversation. We have a lot of respect for each other, and we're friends, and we learn from each other. And I think it's just good dialogue, and get other people from our platforms involved in the dialogue, and you just see it grow.
I for one can't wait to listen. I think it sounds epic.
Cool. We got our first listener.
Yeah, yes. Right here. And I thought, Zach, we could do, just to finish, a cheeky quick fire if you're up for it. It's my favorite part. Okay.
Cheeky. Are you from New Zealand?
Just got terrible slang, basically. I apologize. Okay, ready?
Yep.
What's your spirit animal?
Ooh, This is, I have to think about this for a second. I think it might be I want to just say like a red-tailed hawk.
Why?
I see them a lot. And I don't know. Red-tailed hawks kind of fly around gracefully, but everything on the ground respects them, you know?
Love it. Okay, most inspirational person you know and why?
Who is the most inspirational person I know? Man, these are good questions.
We're getting into the psyche of Zach.
I'm inspired by a lot of people. I'm inspired by my friend that I just told you about, Danny. I'm inspired by my friend Sean Wall. Kid is got an infectious smile and is always happy and brings a lot of just sweet energy to our interactions. So I'm going to go with those two.
Wholesome. I love it. A sport you'd like to try?
A sport I'd like to try. It's a good one. This is not a sport, but I wish I was a famous DJ. I want to learn how to mix and throw down some cool sets.
Yeah, what genre? What are we thinking? Is it like a techno house vibe?
Yeah, so I think my vibe might be different than anyone's vibe. I like a lot of tech house and UK garage, and I like dubstep, I like hip hop, and I think I could combine it all. And I like melodic, all. I think people would be like, "Whoa, what just happened?" And that's what I would want.
I can't wait. I'm really hoping that you're going to mix something for the intro for the podcast jingle.
Maybe I should.
That could be like the start of it.
I already have a DJ name. You can find me on Spotify. It's DJ. So Chamonix is spelled CHAMONIX. My DJ name is Shamonics, and the ON is capitalized because of on.
A wordsmith. I love it. Genius.
Yeah.
Chamonix. Okay, we're going to go listen to that. And just finally, what is the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
The best piece of advice I've ever been given, probably forgive older versions of myself and be kind to yourself. And once I started to do that, my life changed.
Zach, you have been an utterly inspirational guest. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This has been fun.
Oh my word, what a guy. Inspired just doesn't cut it. I mean, oh, what a journey. And I felt his joy when he talks about trying a blade for the first time. Oh, just imagine being there and watching someone light up with joy, and yeah, just so cool. And really interesting about the differences between being born without part of your leg compared to losing part of your limb later in life, and how that affects how you get on with prosthetics. I also obviously access to prosthetics is a huge topic. And Zach talking about how you might be only able to get one every 2 years, where we look at how we approach trainers. So, people see them, unfortunately, as something quite disposable. So, yeah, really makes you think, doesn't it? Also, the fact there aren't podiums for para-athletes in certain trail running events like UTMB is mental. What? I think Zach's point about at least just trying, yeah, maybe you make mistakes, but at least you're doing something instead of just sitting there doing nothing. It's like the ultimate procrastination, isn't it? I thought that was super interesting. And also, so Zach was talking about his friend Danny, who will be competing in the biathlon at the Winter Paralympics in March. So we are going to try and get her on beforehand. I know, exciting. And another fun fact for you is that we had Juliet Denny, another ultra runner, on the podcast last episode, and she was at UTMB. So she took on the CCC and Zach took on the ETC. I know, acronyms galore. How much does trail running just love a cheeky acronym? Also, I really need to stop saying the word cheeky. That's definitely come to light. So go and check out the incredible work that Born to Adapt does. Go and follow Zach. Keep your eyes peeled for his new podcast, whatever the name shall be. I've dropped all the information, all the links in this podcast description. So follow, like, subscribe. You know the drill to know what is coming up. I've been Emma Cole, your host, and it's been my utter pleasure to bring you this episode. Thanks to TuneTank for the tunes.